Good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of Department of History, Faculty of Humanities and Social Sciences, Integral University, Lucknow, it is my great pleasure to welcome you all and also our today's speaker, Dr. Jishan Warsi, Assistant Professor of Political Science at Integral University, Lucknow, to this value-added program. Dr. Jishan is an expert of this field, political science and history, and has made great contributions to the academia via his research publications. He has presented and published many research papers in national and international conferences and journals. He completed his PhD from Public Administration, Aligarh Muslim University, Aligarh. And right now, I am very thankful to Dr. Jishan for giving his valuable time for this lecture, and he is going to share his knowledge on the topic entitled as Ancient Indian Administration. Now, over to you, Dr. Jishan sir. You can start your lecture.
Thank you, Dr. Pallavi. Thank you so much, Integral University, Department of Political Science. Thank you so much, Jyoti ma'am, for giving me this opportunity to deliver a lecture, deliver a talk on uh, ancient Indian administration. Basically, uh, I will discuss here about the administrative system in ancient India. As I am the student of public administration, so I have been dealt with the Indian administration, which was my PhD topic also. I have been worked on bureaucracy and Indian administration, the role of bureaucracy. Likewise, so during my study, during my PhD, I found that administration was so far in comparison with the modern era or the Vedic era or ancient period or middle period, whatever you can say. There was some most of the things were the common, like the system of government was different in different times. The system of approach to the society was different at all the time, all the different times. But the system of administration, I have found that is usually the same all the time. Like a ruler, though whether no matter it is monarchy, it's a democracy, or whatsoever. But I found that most of the time the system of the governance, system of the administration is more or less same. But yes, there was some difference. There were some restrictions. Some and like in ancient period, I will talk about on the topic. In ancient period, as there was a patriarchal type of approach to society of the government also. Patriarchal approach means they were very strict, they were very radical, they were very, mm, you can say, they were very adamant for the administration or their rules and regulations, their constitution, whatever said, whatever rule they said, they always abide by the rules. And favoritism was not as much as far as much involved in the ancient period or medieval period, because at that time one thing was common that uh, uh, the hierarchical ancestral system, the administration, the kingship, it was hereditary. The 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 kings, the rulers, they were from the same family. They ruled time by time. They changed. They came from the same family, and they ruled over the people. And that's why there was favoritism. I am saying that favoritism was not as much as involved. And today you can see, if you will talk about the modern time, you can say that the Congress party, a particular family ruled over for a large time period. But that was a time. That was uh, you can say the situation. the situation, the society accepted. It was democracy after the independence. It was democracy, and all that happened was by choice of the people, by the people. So you can't say that. Anyways, leave that modern time. We come to the ancient administrative system first. So to start, I will uh, as I will start from the Mauryan period. I chosen the Mauryan period because it was the first time in India when India attained political unity and administrative uniformity. Okay, so I'm a student of political science, so that's why I'm starting it from the Mauryan period. So Indian history actually entered in a very new era with the beginning of the Mauryan Empire. I told you that was the first time India attained political unity and administrative uniformity. So the Mauryan Empire was at that time divided into four provinces. The Patliputra as the capital. Patliputra was the capital of you can say India, that the ancient India. The names of the four provincial capitals were Tosali in the east, Ujjain in the west, Suvarnanagari in the south, and Taxila in the north. So Mauryaans at the time Mauryaans developed an organized and very an elaborate system of administration. There was central administration also, which was directly under the king. Besides, there was provincial administration, there was local administration, there was revenue administration also, the most important. There was judicial administration. Judicial system has also been very grown up because the government, the king, the king was not able to alone to handle. Not, he was not alone able to handle all the cases, to hear all the cases. So he started a system. He started a kind of structure. He formed a judicial structure. So there was judicial administration and military administration. There was occupation. The kings of that time started the war. Also, you have studied in the, you have learned in the history also. So, due to war, there was military administration, which was very important to save the territory of the state, save the territory of the empire. So, as we are discussing the administrative system of the modern period, so we will now discuss the administrative system. And to begin with it, we will start from the administrative system. Sorry, central administration. We will start from the central administration, the first part of the king was the supreme and the sovereign authority of the Mauryan administration. And the king at that time in the Mauryan period was the sovereign authority. He was the supreme authority of the Mauryan administration. He had all the supreme power of the executive, legislative, and judicial uh, system. All the powers were vested in him only. So he was responsible for the safety and security of the kingdom. He laid down the general lines of policy that was to be followed by all officials. Every official, whosoever it is, as they have some provinces also. So in that provinces also, only the rule passed by the king has been laid down. He appointed ministers and other officers of the royal administration. In addition, king was the supreme commander of the army and head of the entire military. King is supposed to be the main leader. Suppose like this today, you say that the president is the chief commander of the all three. Uh, you can say all three forces, all three armed forces, naval navy forces, and the uh, air force. Likewise, just like that, at that time, the king was the commander of the all the military, the overall military system. The modern empire before Ashoka was essentially a Hindu state. According to the Hindu concept, the supreme sovereign of the state was Dharma. Dharma was the supreme sovereign of the state, or laws, and the king was to be its guardian. King only is the guardian. King was the only guardian of the state to protect the state by the by uh, by implementing those laws who were those laws which were made by him only, by the king only. Okay, so uh, the king can never king can never dare to defy the laws made by him, or in consultation with others. Any law, king cannot, in any situation, king cannot defy the law. He was aided and advised by the Mantri Parishad. There was a Mantri Parishad like that, Council of, like we have in today's government system. We have Council of Ministers. So likewise, like that, they have the Mauryans also have the Mantri Parishad, and he was to be guided by it in conduct of day-to-day administration. Like like the today other ministers, like today what is going on these days, that the cabinet pass any bill, then it goes to the parliament. So in the or any by passing that bill, to pass that bill in the cabinet, most of the people, like you say, generally people say that prime minister is doing that. But in the context of the central government, what we say, the prime minister is doing that. In the state government, if we are concerned with the state government, we say that the chief minister is doing that. So it's not basically only the chief minister or only the prime minister who is doing that. Apart from him or her, there are so many ministers also. There are so many officers also. But basically, the minister concerned with that particular portfolio, that particular department, they consult everything with the prime minister. Okay. By prime minister, because prime minister is the leader of the majority party. So they consult most of the things with the prime minister, and with prime minister put it into the council of minister, and council of minister then passed any bill to present for further presentation in the house parliament. It goes to the, so likewise there were mantri parishad, and the king was guided by mantris, the ministers, in the conduct of day-to-day administration. This became more of an obligation during times of emergency, during the emergency period, or natural disaster also. So during that period, during emergency period, uh, uh, it was more of an obligation. The rules, the, the constitution, the rules made by the king, or that that are made more obligatory for the king. Okay, the Brahmins had a great influence on the king. The Brahmins and in the modern time period, they has had a great influence. Purohit, you can say that they were known as the Purohit. Yeah, like Chanakya was the Purohit. The Brahmins had a great influence on the king, and the later was required not to disobey. King was not king cannot disobey. King has to follow. He has to abide by what the whatsoever the Brahmins are saying. Okay. So instead, he always looked towards their support. King cannot run the state, run the administration, run the empire without the support of the Purohit or ministers. He always seeks support because the empire at that time was uh, uh, increasing, the expanding. Sorry, the empire was expanding at that time. Has been expanded for uh, so much. Also, as the powers of the Moran government was of a centralized nature, the provincial governor and provincial ministers had the right to be consulted by the king, especially in all provincial matters. The number of ministers in the Council of Ministers varied and was not fixed. The ministers had to qualify by showing their ability, especially in terms of religion and money. In times of emergency, the king was always to be guided by the majority decision of the Council of Ministers. The decision taken in the majority in the decision taken in Council of Cabinet with the majority that the king goes with. Besides, there was a well organized hierarchy of bureaucrats, okay, uh, who looked after the executive, judicial, and revenue officers. The entire administration system was organized into departments, each of which was headed by a superintendent known as Adhyaksh. At that time, they were called as Adhyaksh. The Adhyaksh was assisted by clerks, accountants, and spies, clerks, accountants, and spies also that time was also spies was also important. Like today, you have the LIU, even in any local organization, any private, government, any type kind of organization, everyone has some kind of look intelligence unit or his or her intelligence unit because most of the information came from the inside you the leaders, the superiors, the heads of the departments or heads of the ministries, heads of the states, heads of the various uh, you can say organizations. They seek information which is hidden. They basically work on the hidden information. So they have to have their some kind of intelligence unit, spies who are accountable to him or her to provide them with the information which their general administration or general administration or the people responsible for general administration has doesn't have. Okay. Secondly, we'll come on the provincial administration of the Mauryan Empire. So, in provincial administration, the empire was divided into two parts. If we are talking about the provincial administration of Mauryan Empire, the entire empire was divided into two parts. First, the kingdom, okay, which was under the direct rule of the king, I told you, and second was the vassal states. Vassal states are those states who come under the state, okay, under the kingdom. Means these are the states which comes under the kingdom. They are governed by the kingdom. They governed by the same laws. They governed by the same rules and constitution. The Mauryan territory that was directly ruled by the king was divided into a number of provinces called Janpadas. You have you must have listened Janpadas. Today you have called Janpad district. Okay. At that time it was named as just Janpada. Okay. So, number of provinces called Janpadas. Ashoka had 5 provinces with capitals named namely Takshila, Ujjain, Tosali, Suvarnanagari, and Patliputra. I have told you earlier. Each province was subdivided into a number of districts, and each district was again subdivided into a number of units. There were some units. There was a few. There were the district was a combination of some units. Units you can say, and then if you over the Veda, sorry, sorry, within Vedic period, you will go to the Vedic period of Vedic history. You will find that there were families to the families were the units and they form the gram and then that goes to till the jana and like that. So it is like that only, and each district has a number of units. Okay. However, in addition to these centrally ruled Mauryan territories, there were vassal states. They enjoyed a great deal of autonomy. They had autonomy also because it was not possible for the administration, the kingdom, the king to rule over the states which are very far from the centralized location or the far from the kingdom. It was not possible. So they made some rules, but they also provide some autonomy uh, to the responsible person who look after the vassal states because they need flexibility to because there was no such kind of communication today we have, like today you have. So just for the just due to like we were lacking this the system of communication. There was no proper communication system which we can transfer the information from here to a distance, a large distance. So it was easy to it was a kind of you can say a tool that gives some autonomy to the rulers who are ruling in that particular cell state. So they will do accordingly, and the administration, general administration, or provincial administration would not suffer. And so, to not let the administration suffer, the king provide some autonomy to the responsible person of the cell state. The provincial administration worked on similar lines of the central administration. The Mauryan Emperor directly ruled the central and the eastern parts of the empire. The other areas were ruled by the provincial governors. The provincial governors were responsible for day-to-day conduct of administration of provinces. They were expected to consult on important matters. In any case, if they had difficulty, if there is something big, if there is a big decision they have to take, then they have to consult it with the central administration, or you can say the kingdom or the king. They were also There were also the district officers, reporters, clerks who help in the smooth running of the provincial. They provide like officers. They provide they implement. They provide awareness to the. They provide. They help in the implementation of the uh, programs. They help in the reporters. They help in the awareness of the people. Clerks who look after the day-to-day working time, minute to minute, even minute to minute working. They reach out to the people. Yeah, so they all make the provincial administration. They all come jointly work and they trying to make the provincial administration smooth with running with smoothly. Okay. Now come to the local administration. What kind of was there in Mauryan period? So the district administration was in the charge of Rajugas. Earlier about there was Jampadas. The district administration was in the charge of Rajugas. Those positions and the functions are similar to today's district collector. Like we have the district magistrate, magistrate and collectors have they have the different meaning. Collector is responsible for the collection of the taxes revenue, and magistrate is responsible for the judicial, you can say, some judicial functions also. Okay, so the magistrate have executive and judicial powers, both kind of powers at the same time. So he was assisted by yuktas or subordinates officers, you can say. In the urban areas. there was a municipal board also with 30 members, and there were 6 committees with 5 broad members, each to manage the administration of cities. Okay. There were 30 members. They were divided into 6 committees, equally divided into so just 5 members in each committee, and they they were basically responsible to manage the administration of the cities. So there were 6 committees. The first committee was on industrial arts. Second was on foreigners. Third committee was on registration of births and deaths. And today you have municipal corporation. Committees on trade and commerce. Like today you have the ministries like we provide trade and commerce because at that time we have the trade and commerce industrial arts because the at that time we have the we uh, produce so many artistic things and that has been transported from here to there and there has been there the there they do business of that particular artistic things also. And committees on foreigners also has even as I told you that modern period was the first period which was politically which has the uniform administration because there was some kind of stability. Earlier there were people who migrate time by time, who migrated always, who just traveled after who stay somewhere for a very less time. Mostly they stay nearby a river because to live we are in need of we must have to have water. So mostly you have seen you must have seen that mostly the ancient in ancient period mostly the villages were on the banks of rivers. Why? Because just to have the easy access to the water. Okay, so uh, we committee on registration of births and deaths, committee on trade and commerce, committee on supervision of manufacturers, committee on collection of excise and custom duties. There were also this department. There were also excise and custom duties taxes. Okay, so like if we talk about the committee on trade and commerce, they work on the uh, they work on the uh, policies, they work on the strategies, they work on the rules and regulations, they form the conditions, they create the situation, the conditions in which the trade and commerce took place because there was no such kind of industries at that time. So what we have to survive to have we have to survive we need to have some source of income, we need to have some we have to generate some revenue. People do trade, people do are involved in the trade and commerce, they sell and purchase the things and they do the businesses. That was the uh, only we have the only way of have some earnings. Okay, like committee on collection of excise and custom duties. We, as I told you, we live, the people live nearby the village river. So one one village to other village or one janpada to other janpada, we are exporting something. So it was just possible by the river only because they all of them were beside by the river. So at that time there was some also the duties and to just enter in the Janpadas or provinces, other provinces, we were providing the at that time the people were providing the facilities, the things to the other provinces also. Village administration was in the hand of Gramini, and his superior was called Gopa. Okay, there was a post of Gramini also who look after the village administration, and his superior was called Gopa, who was in charge of 10 to 15 villages. He he supervised the he looked after the 10 to 15 village name who is the authority named Gopa. Census was regular activity, and the village officials were to number the people along with other details such as their caste and occupations. They were also to count the animals in each one. Animals were also very important at that time, like because instead of having land or these artistic things, and then craft, the the main thing, the very important mode of you can say trade, uh, was or business, you can say, was the cattle business. Yeah, means people buy and purchase the, the animals, for like goats, like ox, cows, just to produce milk, to do the business of milk, to provide the unlike oxes, to provide the farming, to use them in farming, goats also. Okay. So as I told you, census in the towns was conducted by the municipal officials, especially to track the movements of both foreign and indigenous population. I told you that people continuously traveled; they never stayed at a place permanently. So that the data collected were cross-checked by the spies. They checked that if any unknown or unexpected foreigner is residing between them, because that could be a spy of the other king, the state, other empire, who is living with us and trying to just trying to get our information, leak our information to our enemies. Census appears to have become a permanent institution during the administration of the Mauryas. Then next come to the revenue administration. What was revenue administration? What kind of revenue administration we have in the modern day? As Kautilya, Kautilya laid greater stress on treasury. Like we must have some, you know, we must have a strong economy. So he laid greater stress on treasury as a smooth and successful functioning of administration depended on it. You have the financial resources, and you won't worried about launching any scheme. You won't worried about have some new ideas. You will just go with it. You will just go and apply any idea, anytime. Because in administration, we have learned that the finance. What is the finance? I'm telling you in one line. The finance is the blood of the administration. The finance is the blood of the administration. You will learn from the budget system, then you get to know that. So it's like running blood in the body. So main source of income was at that time land revenue. Others were like taxation and rent. Most of the property belongs to the king, belongs to the kingdom, belongs to the state. So there most of the things were on rent, and if that is not on rent, if the government laid some taxes, they did some taxes on some things, like their lands or any facilities like ponds or anything you are using, which is government's property, you are using there, they put some tax on or rent. And land revenue was the main source of the income I told you. So land revenue was one sixth one sixth of the total produce, and though it was in reality was much higher to charge as per the economic and the local conditions of the farmer, was the very higher proportion that was charged. In addition to land revenue, there were excise duty, forest tax, water tax, taxes on mines, tax on coinage, etc. as other sources of revenue. Much of the modern revenue was expended on paying the army, okay, to maintaining the army. And even today, you will see that a big part of our budget spends on the uh, you can say security of the nation in the defense. I think 1 or 2 years later, when the budget was presented, we have analyzed that the 67% of the budget was spent on the defense system. So this is the period of war. We have already seen two world wars. Yeah, we have already witnessed the two world wars. So and still the greed of money, greed of power, yet not stopped. People haven't yet stopped. They are trying their best. Every country is trying their best. You can see around. I don't name anyone, but you can see around that most of the countries, the superpowers, they are just uh, they are finding some opportunity. They are waiting for an opportunity, like just the situation like that. Okay, so uh, I told much of the Mauryan revenue was expended on paying the army, the officials of the royal government, charities, and different public works like irrigation projects, uh, road reconstruction, etc. Okay. So the revenue earned by the people was uh, spent on this kind of activity. Then come to the judicial administration. What kind of judicial administration uh, there in modern period, which is the ancient period, the king was the head of the judiciary. That was he was the highest court of appeal, told you, and he personally listened to appeal of the listened. That doesn't mean that he is just he was approachable. He also listened the appeals. However, since the Mauryan Empire was huge, it was not possible for the king to solve each and every case. Listen, every case was not possible. So he appointed judges for the purpose. Like today, you put some appeal in the capital punishment case. You must have seen you yeah, in the capital punishment cases. You must have seen that people approach to the president of India, president of a country, for mercy. They probably they, to the president of India to provide mercy, to have some mercy with the and convert the capital punishment into life sentence or less than that. But uh, basically, that depends on the situation, that depends on the crime, the kind of crime that particular culprit has had. So at that time, the king was not only approachable in that cases, he listen the cases also, but he also found judges to listen the cases. So they used to hear normal cases. However, during the reign of Ashoka, many reforms were introduced in the judicial system. For example, granting of pardon was introduced in his time. Okay. The Supreme Court was located in the capital, and the Chief Justice was called Dhar Adhikari. At that time, the Chief Justice, like we are the Chief Justice of India, at that time, we have Dharmadhikari. There were also subordinate courts at the provincial capitals, like today you have the High Court, that was the Supreme Court. There is Supreme Court, and you have the High Court in each state. So there were also subordinate courts at the provincial capitals and district under Amatyas. Okay, so there were some subordinate courts in provincial capitals, and there were districts also, and the authorities which works who look after the courts in the provinces and districts known as Amatyas. He called as Amatyas. In villages and towns, cases were settled by the Gram Varda. There were also the judicial officer named Gram Varda in villages and towns who looked after the cases in villages. And in town, Nagar Vyavaharika Nagar Vyavaharika Mahamatra. Nagar Vyavaharika Mahamatra. Okay. In the towns, there was Nagar Vyavaharika Mahamatra. Different kind of punishment such as fines, imprisonments, mutilation, and death were meted out to the offenders. Police stations were found at all major places in the city. Both Kautilya and Ashoka edicts mention about jails and jail officials. There were jails also. It was ensured that no innocent gets punished. Ashoka appointed a special class of officers known as the Dhamma Mahamatra. Officer known as Dhamma Mahamatra should look into this. It's like you can say uh, a special code, a special officer who who looks into the matters and who basically tries to find out that at least any innocent person couldn't get punished. Okay, that was the purpose of Dhamma Mahamastras. Remission of sentences is also mentioned in Ashoka's description. Okay. Now come to the military administration. What kind of military administration was? So, as I told you earlier, that he was the supreme commander of the military. Though, so the Mauryan army was well organized. At that time, the army has been very well organized, and it was under the control of Senapati. Like today, you have the army chiefs, you have naval chief, you have chiefs in all these air chief. Okay, yes, sorry, air marshal. We call him air marshal, chief of air staff. So even we have the government of Narendra Modi earlier has created a position above all these three heads. He appointed General VP Rawat as CDS, and that was post of sorry, I forgot that particular name, but there was also a post the position which was under whom all these three commanders work, and that works actually as the bridge between the president and the supreme commander, who is the president, and between the commanders of the different armies, different units. Okay. So, as per Greek author Pliny, the Mauryan army consisted of 6 lakh infantry, 30,000 cavalry, 9,000 elephants, and 8,000 chariots. Okay, 8,000 chariots. There was a board of 30 members to look into matters pertaining to war. A committee has been made. Okay, and these members were placed in 6 committees with the 5 members in each. Like we have earlier a committee, I told you in I think it was in provincial administration. Okay, so sorry, local administration. These committees were responsible to manage the following wings of the military, like Navy. First committee of 5 members look after the Navy. Second committee of the 5 members look after the transport and supply. Third committee looks after the infantry. Fourth committee looks after the cavalry. Fifth committee looks after the war chariots, and sixth and the last committee looks after the war elephants. Okay. So each of these wings. I will tell you the name of 6 wings. Each of these wings was were under the control of Adhyaksh or superintendent. Okay. The main authority who looks after these committees was known as the Adhyaksh. The Mauryan Empire had the privilege of having successful administrators such as Chandragupta Maurya. Okay. Chandragupta Maurya, and Ashoka. So these were the very successful administrators. The administration of the empire was decentralized, and the administrative powers were divided into administrative units. However, these units were under a rigid central control, but they, they were divided into administrative units. Ashoka introduced innovations and reforms in the Mauryan administrative system. He improved the functioning of the executive, legislature, and judiciary. He introduced reforms in the provincial administration. He appointed many officials to look into the task of public welfare. Ashoka appointed a special class of officers known as Dhammamatras to look after the material and spiritual well-being of the people. Okay. Dhammamatras were responsible to look into the matter of material and spiritual well-being of the people. These persons were to spread the gospel of Dhamma was the so the basic because as I told you that it was a Hindu state, so they uh, the these persons were to spread the gospel of the Dharma. Okay, now I will show briefly, just shortly, we have the lack of time. So briefly talk about the administrative system during Gupta period. So if we will talk about, yeah, we will discuss about the Gupta period. So it was uh, uh, administrative system during the Gupta dynasty was found more or less similar to that of Mauryan Empire. At the time of the Gupta rule, there was political harmony in ancient India. Okay. That was not completely political harmony in earlier period, but in Gupta's period, there was political harmony in ancient India. During this period, the empire was classified into administrative divisions like Rajya, Rashtra. These words, Rashtra, Desh, Mandal. These words came into the uh, in the in the time of Gupta period. These terms arrived. These terms evolved. This denotes the importance being given to administrative decentralization. Administration was just decentralized. Administration got decentralized. Okay. The administrative decisions help the rulers to systematically control their territories. The period of Guptas has been described as the golden age in ancient India. There was consolidation of northern India under one political umbrella. Earlier, they were not under the same uh, umbrella, but in Gupta's period, there was consolidation of North India, okay, which ushered in an era of orderly growth of growth and development. And orderly growth and development has been started in this period. So there were also this kind of systems like we have in the Mauryan period. There were also central administration. There was also provincial administration, local administration, revenue administration, judicial administration, and military administration. And one more was there, a separate and important department, trade and business. So in trade and business, the empire carried out trade activities in countries like China, Ceylon, several European countries, and the East Indian islands. This made the empire become economically and strategically strong, which led to annexation of new states and thereof the expansion of the territorial boundaries of the empire. India starts expanding after that. Expands a lot. Even today, you can see that from it starts and today here we are. So, as I told you, there were also the central administration. So, in the Gupta age, it has been held as a benevolent monarchy. That period of Gupta period was a benevolent monarchy. The king adopted pompous titles such as Parmeshwara, Maharaj Maharaj Adhiraj ki Jai. So Parameshwara, Maharaj Adhiraj, and Param Bhattaraka. Param Bhattaraka. The king was the highest authority and wielded wide powers to enable smooth functioning of the empire. He enjoyed political, administrative, military, and judicial powers. The theory of the divinity of kings was popular during this period, which added to the royal power and prestige. They were looked upon as gods. They were not less than gods for the people. Though the king possessed extensive powers, he did not rule in a tyrannical manner. Council of Ministers and several other officials assisted the king in day-to-day performance of his duties. Like in ancient period, in Vedic period, there was Sabha, there was Samiti. These were there, and at that time the king were known as the Rajan. So the Rajan was there. He was the king. So that doesn't mean that he has all the powers. He can do anything. He can do just everything on the advice, on the guidelines, on the suggestions of the Samiti and Sabha, which were there. But by time, the importance of Sabha and Samiti drops down, and its got very uh, importance got very destroyed. Importance got destroyed. So, uh, but in the Gupta period, Council of Ministers and several other officers they assist the king in day-to-day performance of his duties. The Gupta kings appointed all governors and military and civil officials, and the latter were responsible to the king. The governors were responsible to the king. The king conferred all honors and titles. The king was the custodian of all land in the empire. How, how much the empire expands, the king will be the custodian, not the governors. Though the governors use the military of the government, government use the resources, but they were working as an agent, like the governor of a state working as the agent of the central government or agent of the president. Okay. He looked into works like building of dams, imparting of justice, recovery of taxes, and provision of shelter to needy. The king should never afford to be selfish despot. They had to be ruled according to the principles of Rajya Dharma. Principles of Rajya Dharma. There were also ministers and high officials to aid and advise him, and he shared powers with them. Not only these ministers or officials, they aid or they advise the king. Even king uh, do things do religious sorry, what you can say delegated. He delegated the legislation. Delegated legislation in a term, it is a term of uh, delegate legislation is a term of public administration or political science. So it's a term of executive body. So the king delegate the powers to the ministers, to the officials, because it was at that time the empire has been expanded so much, and it was not possible for the king only to uh, run the state or empire alone. So he delegated the powers. He delegated to the governors, the officers. So there were also ministers and high officials to aid and advise him to share power with them. The emperor was assisted by a council of ministers, also known as Mantri Parishad. The prime minister of a state, okay, the prime minister of a state, known as Mantri Mukhya. At that time, at any prime minister of any state who was known as Mantri Mukhya. was among the prominent ones in the council. They also includes in the council the other portfolios such as military affairs, law and order matters, and such other were held by different officials known as Mahasandhi Vigrahaka, Mahasandhi Vigrahaka, Amatya, Mahabaladhikarita, and Mahadandanayak. Yeah, Mahadandanayak means judicial authority. Yeah, Amatya, I have told you earlier. So all important matters were decided in a joint sitting of the king and his ministers, or you can say officers or subordinates. The king used to respect the opinion given by his ministers or officers. Being a benevolent monarch, the king was always concerned with the well-being of his subjects. He told the country to keep himself abreast with the social and economic life of it. Next, come to the provincial administration of the Gupta period. Briefly, I will tell you. The Guptas organized a system of provincial and local administration. The empire was divided into divisions called Bhukt, okay, and each Bhukti was placed under the charge of an Uparika. The Bhuktis were divided into districts or Vishayas, and each Vishayas was under a Vishayapati. The Vishayapatis were generally members of royal family. The Vishayas who were appointed by the king were from the royal family. They were assisted in the work by a council of representatives. So, in the provincial administration, this happened. In local, come to the local administration, the city was governed by a parishad, and the head was known as Nagar Rakshak. Nagar Rakshak. Purapala Uparika. Purapala Uparika was another officer, and the Nagar Rakshak worked under him. Okay, Purapalika is above the Nagar Rakshak. Also, there was a special officer known as Avastika, who acted as the superintendent of Dharmshalas. Avastika, you can relate the with the terms. अवस्थिका मतलब व्यवस्थिक व्यवस्थिका व्यवस्था धर्मशाला किसी के आवास का व्यवस्था इस तरीके से आप समझ सकते हैं सुपरिटेंडेंट ऑफ धर्मशाला professional bodies were given professional bodies were given considerable attention. Artisan merchants and bankers organized their own guilds and managed their own affairs. So this kind of even revenue administration was there. It seems so. But in that time, uh, in the Gupta period, the resources of revenue collection was increased. The resources they increased the mode of sources of the revenue generation, and the 18 sources of revenue, like uh, in which the land revenue was the principal one. Okay, so it was there, and land tax was there on cultivator, which was levied on the cultivators. So there were also system was enhanced system, enhanced revenue administration was there. Okay. Next, come to the judicial administration. Likewise, like earlier in 2000, like earlier in modern period, Guptas also had the judicial administration. They have the courts, they appoint the judges, they have the courts, and military system. You come into the military system also. There was huge army already, and uh, they were already spending a huge amount of the revenue on it, improving their army. So it was expanding. So to conclude, I will say that the Mauryas and Gupta's period, basically, more Indian administration was started in a joint level, a unified political setup started with the Mauryans, and administration is started. And earlier there was administration, but a unified India and say, started in during the Mauryan period. So that's why I took it foreign period to teach you to share my information, whatever I have on the Indian and ancient administration. Okay, so that's all from my side, and thank you, uh, Dr. Pallavi, and thank you, Dr. Anshal. Okay, thank you. I would like to thanks our HOD ma'am. Okay, I would like to thank you, HOD ma'am, uh, Professor Zeba Akil Saiba, for providing me this opportunity to share my knowledge to the students, and it was really wonderful. Program was very well. I wish good luck to the department, to the university. Thank you so much. Good.
Thank you very much, Dr. Jisan sir. And we are very privileged to have you on this program, on this valued program. And your thought-provoking lecture is very insightful, and indeed it was a very good lecture. And I hope our student and participant will get the benefits from this lecture. Uh, Not going to uh, deep into this uh, topic. We all know that the ancient Indian history or the ancient Indian uh, society, what was much in a developing phase from one period, from Harappan civilization to the end of the Gupta period. There were different kind of development is going on from period to period. So Dr. Jisan uh, is enlighten us about the administrative history of the ancient Indian history. And thank you, Dr. Jisan, once again. And thank you to our HOD ma'am, Professor Zeba Akil, for giving us a chance to organize this kind of program for the student and the faculty members. Thank you once again. I think anyone want to ask a question, they can ask if you.
Yeah, please, anybody.
Okay, I think there is no question. Thank you, Dishan sir, once again.
I leave now.